Hello, it is me, Miss Jarena Star, and I'm back with another blog. I was on somebody else's YouTube channel. It was Mr. Oshay. Mr. Oshay is a very big African American YouTube star, and he was mentioning a very important topic about African Americans investing in Africa, um, using the fact that their heritage, because their heritage is African, their DNA is African, they should, take advantage of the African boom that is about to happen and invest in the continent, travel to Africa, see it. He was trying to convince them how great Africa is, the African Americans. And while I was listening to the live stream, um, there was some really ignorant men who had these really stereotypical views of Africa, you know? Like they were just dissing it and they just got this really big head that Africans need them and are begging these illiterate. I'm not talking about all African, I'm just the ones that was on the show. They thought like Africa was this big begging bowl of hungry people that they've seen on the media. And it really shocked me about how unwoke and woefully ignorant a lot of African American men are. They're so manipulated by their media. I mean, I'll never see that kind of comment coming out of the mouth of, even American whites. They'll never say that about their ancestral homeland, Europe. They've always had ties with Europe since the time that they moved to America. America was founded by, the Europeans, and they put their people in there. But because of slavery, the African Americans that went to America has have literally had their connection cut with Africa for how many years? 200 years? 300 years? Yeah. Literally, they've literally had it cut. Or is it 400 years? Yeah. So there's been no involvement with the continent. Since they've got to America, there's been absolutely no involvement with Africa. They have never visited their continent, their homeland. And there are some super confused people who claim that they're actually the original American Indians. It's just really bad. And I just feel like white supremacy has really effed up African Americans. What the hell has happened to them? They need to pay responsibility for what they've done to them. The fact that you have Americans and Europeans all planning to go to Africa and marrying the first African woman they get so that they can get their foothold on the continent. You have Asians dying to get to Africa so that they can exploit the minerals. And then you have African Americans thinking that Africans are begging for African Americans to save them. That's just absurd. The continent of Africa would benefit, and it will benefit the African Americans if they united and had a common block of black diaspora. None of this ignoramus view that, oh, Africa needs us, but this is like what has been planted on the minds of a lot of African American people. I know they're not all of them. There are ones that are very woke and going to Africa and visiting and doing all sorts. But for the ones that feel that Africa is somehow begging them to come and help them, and they've got this big head, it's just wrong. And they've also got this weird thing that, the Africans that are in America are somehow, if Africa's so great, why are they coming here? Why do they all want to live in America? That's not their fault. That's because of European colonial rule and the fact that they control the markets. America, USA, Europe, they control the markets. Look how they work together so that industry benefits their economies. Is that too hard to figure out? Is that too hard to realize why the Africans in the past have been coming to the north? Because of the trade blocks and all these sanctions and the fact that Africans, you know, they've controlled a market that They made Africa depend on Europe, even though all the goods that they are selling to Africans comes from Africa. So if they do not understand that very simple concept, there is no hope. And there's no hope that these people can actually come and invest in Africa and watch it grow and let it become a superpower. So there will definitely be people who will perish, in America when it goes down. If they are not woke enough and not ready enough, they need to leave their white supremacy baggage behind and stop this, savior complex that the West have manipulated Africa as being a hellhole, as being a desert, when that's not true. It's a very, very wealthy continent, with lots of resources. But the white supremacists know that. All these other nations know that. They benefit from spreading lies about it, about its people, its culture, its land, and the things it has. And for you to fall for it, shame on you as a ethnically black African, you know, to fall for the lies of the propaganda and hate against Africa. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should know better than that. You should know what the people that you live with have done by destroying Africa's image. You know, they should know that. And if they don't know that, then they're lost. Let them just wander in wonderland in hopelessness. No continent of Africa needs somebody like that. Seriously, they're a lost cause. So, I spent about, I don't know, 20 minutes listening to the conversation and just cannot believe that there are human beings like the guy that was talking in O'Shea's recent chat about Africa. They really, he angered a lot of people. He angered African Americans, he angered Africans that were, willing to engage, with, it's a positive thing. But I felt like he was there to stop this discussion from taking place. I feel like he's been paid to act like an idiot, to stop the discussion from flowing and to cause confusion. And there's just so many demonic trolls like that who just do not want to see African Americans and Africans uniting and talking, things that you're supposed to talk about, uniting, working as a trade bloc, working together to enrich our communities, to benefit us, as we are the same people. Are we not? Yes, we are. If the South American blacks, they totally understand where they originate from. There's hardly any difference from the Africans in Africa and the ones in South America. And even they get it. What's happened with a lot of African American males that do not get it? And I just think a lot of education and reprogramming is needed from the black community in America, the African Americans, to try and educate them that Africans are not your enemies. There's no need to be hateful for people that look like you. Stop the self-hate. So, yeah. So it was interesting to watch and listen, and but a lot of work needs to be done with what's in terms of African Americans being aware of global issues, little things like, the guy that was talking didn't even have a passport because he doesn't think any other country is worth traveling to. And I have been to America, and a lot of African American male men talk like that. They think America's a paradise. Why would they need to travel out of America? They have. That's scary. That's absolutely scary. That you don't even have a passport in case something happens and you need to leave. How can you not have a passport? How can you not travel? How can you stay in your neighborhood since you were born? And you call traveling just going different state. There's a whole wide world out there. And because of social media, everything has become globalized. You learn things on social media about different countries. Why don't you visit them? Experience it. Experience the food, A lot of these countries have organic food, they have culture. Why would you not have a passport? There is no excuse to not have a passport. You know, is it just to keep African Americans stuck in America, working away, toiling away, so they don't leave? Has it become like a communist country like Cuba, where you are not allowed to leave the country? It seems like that. And they're being told that the whole world is horrible and not worth visiting, and that America has everything they need. What kind of brainwashing is this? Absolutely awful. What kind of education have they received? There is no hope. They need help. The way that he was coming across, like Africa needed his help and he was too good to give help to Africa. Africa needs to help you. You are lost, mate. I'm not going to mention the name because he knows who he is. Everybody knows how, you know, annoying he was and will remember him. But he is a lost cause. Africa will heal him. He needs Africa to find out who he is. He needs holy water from the rivers of Africa. There's lots of holy places where they have holy water, and he needs sprinkling of holy water on him because white supremacy has truly, truly messed him up. His brain is just so closed. And is there any hope for somebody like that at such a grown ass age, for help? Because he's lost. He clearly is lost. He's speaking such hateful, evil words about himself. There is absolutely no hope for that man. No hope. And he doesn't even understand the sheer disgustingness of what he is saying. His mind is totally programmed to hate himself. And I know that there's, the African Americans from the past that were contributed to World War II, that helped Africa. There's such a great history. They went to Europe. Those are not the same people. you know, they are obviously, these are the children of them, but when they watch somebody like that man talk, I think one of the elders, he must have heard him and just swore at him because he just realized how ignorant, that generation are. And this is a result of extreme programming, you know, since the 80s about an pan-African agenda, so, when they basically put so much hip hop on, I think it was in the late 80s or around that time, and they put gangster rap, and they used the media to promote this agenda of rappers and money to completely destroy the African consciousness that was going on in America during the late 80s with the Bill Cosby show. And now we are seeing these people who were brought up during that time are fully blown adults, and they're talking complete gibberish. And when they see this, the white supremacists are extremely happy because their promotion has worked, you know. But the fact that he thinks that Africa, that's actually rising, has a billion, trillion amount of wealth, and he's going there saying, why should I go there? They owe me. Why should I help them? Like, he doesn't offer anything for Africa. He needs to go to Africa for Africa to save him, because he needs Africa. It's not the other way around. If he has that disgusting mindset in his head, Africa doesn't need him. And these ignorant, brainwashed men from the late 1980s, they really, really need some sort of reprogramming, some, what's the word, counseling from the black elders of the community to let them know what has happened to them and how defiled they are, because it truly is shocking, and let's just hope. And the thing is, he's talking about it like he's proud. Another caller said on the Oshay show, is currently on at the moment, saying how, people like you, it was basically an African American guy who went to Africa. He's currently doing business. He's working with the I think the West African, Kenyan, no, not sorry, the Nigerian. He's doing all sorts of business. He's going back and forth, and I mean, he's obviously travelled. He's well learned, and he was just trying to help this guy, this lost African American guy, and saying to him how disappointed he is with a lot of African American men purposely making videos about how they hate Africa and how they are not African, they're black. This is madness. You need help. If you're going around saying, I'm not African, I'm black, you need help. You need counseling, and you also need some holy water. Like, there's lots of holy water in Africa, and people need to collectively bring it and spray it on their heads because you are talking complete crap. Even the white supremacists, the racists, are scared and worried. Well, okay, they're not scared, but they feel sad about what they've done. They must do when they watch people like him on YouTube talking about how he's not African, he's black. It's just shocking, and I just hope that there is this national movement to try and deprogram these lost souls, because they will perish when World War III comes, because it's just shocking. But anyway, that was my. I just wanted to talk about that about the Oshay show. So hello. Is this nice to hear from you? The Hebrew Israelites, like that, I would like to mention again. They are another lost cause. There is an element of yes, there's an element of truth, obviously, to the Bible scriptures, because the word is true. And yes, the curses of the derogatory, forgot that word, yeah, there's basically a part in the Bible, and the African Americans do fit the curses of the Bible. And I do believe that they are Israelites, and there are a lot of Israelites in Africa as well. But what I do not agree with the Hebrew Israelites is their very hateful message. It's confused. They use things that interest them and to suit their needs, and they're very sexist information. Again, it's just not right. It's not right. They're almost right, but they're not, and they ruin it by being hateful to Africans. Again, they're just another sect, and they need help too, because they can't be going around saying how Native Americans are Hebrew Israelites and Latinos are Hebrew Israelites, but Africans are not. They need help. They're very, very hateful. And I do agree that the society they lived in has caused that hate, but they are pointing the hate at the wrong direction. They can actually help themselves by uniting and working with Africa. They can help themselves. But this hateful talk of you are Cushite, and I just remember one time online they must have said, "Oh, you Ethiopians are not Israelites, you're Cushites," and one Ethiopian literally saying, "Kush is in Sudan, you idiots. Kush is in Sudan. The Sudanese are Cushites, and Kush is also has a literally a Hebrew empire in their country. It does." So they're all over the place. They're like really confused, and they're missing the point. They really are missing the point. So it's not benefiting anyone. It's not making you move forward. You're literally standing in one place and you're creating hate and confusion, and you're not going anywhere. So they really need to wake up. These men are out of control, and they also need to realize that Africa. Hello. Yeah, exactly. African Americans are going around saying that basically, oh, you Ethiopians are Kush. The thing again with the term Kush, Kush is actually in Sudan. The Kushite Empire is in Sudan, and they're saying You can't be Hebrew Israelite. Well, no, they're basically saying you guys are Cushites. But again, these terms, they've been used by Europeans, Cushites, Semites. They were invented during that whole slavery era time. So you cannot rely on what the white man has said from the time when he was buying and selling Africans. You cannot rely on that. Literally, you cannot. And use it to hate on Africans and divide on Africans. First of all, Africa has so many different tribes. They're unaware of this. And when they were talking about Africa on the Oshay channel, they were literally talking about it like it's one giant country. Africa, Africa this, Africa. Africa like has humongous sized countries in it. Like the size of Australia on one side, literally. You can't be talking about everybody like Africa this, Africa that. There's so many different languages, so many different tribes. Yes, we live on the continent of Africa. There are currently non-Africans in North Africa. Those people aren't Africans. They currently tell you, they're like, I'm not African, I'm white. And they clearly are. The people of Egypt, the people of Algeria, the people of Morocco. So is he calling them African? They're not. Okay, they're in Africa, but they're not African. So he doesn't even know that distinction. Are the white South Africans Africans? No, they're not. They're from Europe. But no, he was using the one word Africa, one continent, one little island. No, no, no. Africa's a humongous continent. And people need to realize that. And they need to educate themselves about the different tribes, different countries. Can't be using one word. Yes, ideally, if Africa unites, it will be great. It will be great for our continent. But they need a bit of information. And one of them was saying, "Oh, you Africans sold us. You sold us." And it's like, are you kidding me? Africa had no power. They were literally colonized. Okay, the European countries were literally coming in and selling tribes, different tribes. They had no power. They fought. They had but unfortunately, because they didn't have the weapons to defend their country, the modern advanced weapons which the Europeans had, that is why there was slavery, and that was on the west part. In the East African slavery, which was absolutely rotten, it was the Arabs that were coming into, that were basically coming into Kenya and Tanzania, you know, but that was just as horrific. But the highlands of Ethiopia, generally Ethiopia, was avoided because of their united stance against um, colonization. And because Africa was completely taken over during the late 19th century, Ethiopia was a defense country, literally. It couldn't trade with its neighbors because its neighbors were occupied by European countries. They were literally defending their country, so they could not grow as fast as they should have grown because all their neighbors were incarcerated. And there was even a time when King Menelik was in power with his wife, Queen Taitu. They actually received Americans. Americans came to visit the country. And an African American came along. He wrote a book about it. You can Google it. African American visits King Menelik's court. He was there. He basically wrote a book about it. And Queen Taitu, she actually saw the African American. She started inspecting him and looking at him and do you know what she said? She said, "He's one of ours. He's one of our people." Because in that time, Ethiopia was completely shut out from outsiders because there was all this raiding of its people going on. So they didn't trust any foreigners. They literally had a rule that they did not trust. They did not want foreigners to come in because there was too much slave raiding going on in Africa. There literally was. And when that Americans, when they came to Ethiopia, I think it was just like some army people because they just wanted to see what was going on in Ethiopia. Just a trade mission sort of. They came, and an African American came, and she said, "Oh, this is one of our people." Even obviously they're African. Any African, if an African American goes to Africa, they're not going to stand out until they open their mouth. They're going to blend in. But it's only when they open their mouths and their Western clothes. So I don't understand where they got this message that well, the guy that was on the O'Shea chat saying how he was black, but he's not African. I've never heard such nonsense in my life. So, yeah, as I was saying, it is time, I think, for the African diaspora to unite, to travel to each other's countries, to visit, to trade, because that's what countries do. That's what countries have been doing. You need an ally. You can't just be floating in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean by yourself with different nations surrounded. It's just crazy. The American Europeans, they unite with the Europe, and yeah, it's not about you going to Africa and Africa begging you. No, it's not like that. That's not what it's all about. Africa has so much potential right now. It's developing. It's actually when the rest of the world's economy is literally getting destroyed, Africa's is growing. They have a young population. The Western nations have aging population. So if you work the maths, basically the African community, literally the African society will be a working nation, and they're going to be very, very rich soon. So people need to recognize that. You need to get that whole Africa and the begging bowl thing out of your mind. That was fake propaganda, boy, so that you don't go and invest in Africa. That was the whole point. It's never been poor. It's always been rich. But all these insurgent and all these rebels that have been coming in there causing problems, that's all done by outside forces. And that they did that for a reason. So that you can think that Africa's a horrible place and you do not go and invest. If you haven't traveled and visited Africa, then you don't know. You need to go. And one of the first steps that a lot of people need to do is get a passport in case they need to run and in case they need to leave the country. Because I honestly feel that we are in very dangerous geopolitical times, where anything can kick off. And people need to be ready, literally, honestly. I'm just going to read some of the comments and see what's out here. Right, I've got one here. Check my channel out at some point if you would love to do a Google Hangout with you and talk. Okay, yes, I do believe in Pan-Africanism, and this is coming from Scattered Minds. And let's see another message. I've got a message here from. Let's see, it's just loading. I've heard many people say similar things. This is from Bigger Story, Smaller Minds. I've heard many people say similar things. Many people don't know what was really going on during the spread of colonization. Too many people are misinformed. Exactly. And that's the thing with lies. When there's too many lies, people get confused. And I'm not preaching, but sometimes I'm not preaching, but who is the master of all lies? The devil. That's what the devil does. Just spreads lies. And I feel a lot of people use lies to get people on the wrong track so that they don't focus on something. So when there's a lot of contradicting information coming in, they don't know which to believe. And that's just an old tactic that was done and is being done, and people need to be aware where all these lies are coming from. I was in O'Shea's chat room just earlier on, and I saw so many messages from literally white supremacists saying how Africa's a shithole, Africa's crap. That's not coming from black people, that's coming from white supremacists. Their entire job is for you to think that Africa is a shithole and that you don't go and invest. They are vested in what we do. They are watching us as to whether we're going to Africa and invest in it or not. They want us in a permanent war, fighting with each other. That's not on. They only want that on our people, and it shouldn't be happening in 2018. And this is why I feel like a lot of women need to get involved, because I feel like with men, men can be easily manipulated because of their testosterone. If there isn't like a voice of reason, as in like women there to counterbalance, it just becomes a cussing match. It comes like a battleground, with idiots like that guy that was on O'Shea's channel chatting complete rubbish. and then bringing out their emotions and making them angry, and nothing will be done. So we just need more voices and more women getting involved in this and talking about how we can rebuild and stick to the topic and stop getting off the topic by having these annoying people coming in with their stupid views. You know, keep your views to yourself. You know, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it. God's sake. So yes, I did mention about how Africans from the diaspora should unite. What I would like to talk about is, yeah, something as simple as literally going on holiday to Africa. Just see it for yourself. Go and visit. See it. Honestly, that's how you're helping your continent. Buy from African companies. Go online, buy from Africa. That's how you can help the continent, you know. And once you help it, once you can help this unilateral business, they'll buy from you, and that's how you grow as a society. It's always been done like that, and needs to go back again. Well, I am Miss Jarena Star. I have been back with another vlog, and I'll be back again. Bye.